Yeah. Come on around here. Come on. They're standing for you. I ain't nothing to do with that. Come on.
Oh, this is great. So, we give a shot at the old technology in a second, but thank you so much, Hetty. I think the Hans and Hetty show is way better than the Hans and Franz show, which we often have at OU. It's one of my faculty, Ron France. But let's talk about Preserve for a moment. But I want to make very clear that some of the work I'm going to show this morning is about collaboration. Okay? I may be one person up here, but I represent the work and ideas, input from many people. So I don't want there to be any misconception that I own anything that's on the screen. And as Hetty pointed out earlier, I have this amazing wife of 53 years now. But more importantly, she is my creative partner in everything. So, Tori, you should be up here as well, just to be very clear. Let's give it up for Tori. Let's talk about Preserve. Let's get back to Preserve. So, today I want to leave you with three aspects of the larger theme. All right? The first is the idea that we seek to preserve local economies and the environment. We are currently seeking to preserve the American School of Design, and I'm excited to share a little bit more about that. And who's going to the Music Fest tomorrow evening? Music Fest tomorrow evening? Okay. Music Fest in Norman Prairie House. We'll get to that here in a bit. And lastly, the idea that what we do is help preserve hope. And all of that, of course, is under the guise of the idea that we seek to preserve architecture for all. So in terms of the ideas about local economies, the environment, I just want to offer you kind of the backdrop to why it's so important that we support the preservation of existing buildings. And there are all sorts of reasons why we should. But let's start with just the basic economic reasons, right? If you were to group all of the tax credit related historic preservation rehabilitation work across the state, it would make roughly the 5th largest company in the state, just to kind of give you a sense of the magnitude of investment and people and resources that go into preserving architecture, existing buildings, especially those deemed to be historically important. Doing tax credit related preservation work generates jobs, many jobs, on the average 450 jobs a year. That's a lot, right? Companies would work hard to attract a company that would bring 450 employees to a city, wouldn't they? Right? And in the backdrop, these are projects that we've been a part of. Mayfair, Sam, I think. Sam, where are you, Sam? Sam, you were part of this one, right? Did you photograph this, in fact?
I did not.
Not this?
Not my photo.
Okay. All right. Well, this is Mayfair up on Broadway Place. Right? And so then we have the idea that just the overall income that comes as a result of preservation architecture is pretty significant, right? Over $20 million just in Oklahoma. Okay? This is just Oklahoma, right? And then if you step back and look at the federal level, right? The federal government has tax credits that it helps put towards certain qualifying projects. If you're investing, right, this is an earlier snapshot, I don't have the latest data, right? But you get a 27% return of our tax dollars that are put into tax credit related preservation work, right? That's a really good investment. How many of you wouldn't mind going with the 27% as opposed to the 5 to 8 on the market, right? It's pretty good, right? And to think that our legislators every couple of years have to rethink this, right? Just think about this. They're wondering, is this a good deal or not? Right? What kind of business are they in if they're questioning 27% return? Right? Crazy stuff, right? But it's not just tax credit type preservation work. Any type of work where you're working with existing fabric is important, right? It's not just about the local economies, it's also about the environment, okay? Former AIA presidents once said that the best and most sustainable project, the most sustainable building out there, want to take a guess? It's the one that's already built. And who else than David Glover to give me that response, right? That's exactly right. It's the stuff that's already built. Let's use what we have and stop obsessing with the new, right? If you can teach my children that, I'll give you something, like a 20 maybe, right? Tori has the money, by the way. Right? But there's so many environmental reasons why you want to stick with the existing stuff. And the backdrop is our own office building, right? It was really just this crappy one-story 1930s building. We really debated, like, is this worth keeping, right? Because it looked like this inside. And we said, you know what, it's worth it, let's do it. And we're so happy we did, because it's a great place to work. And we love also how it's helped contribute to the neighborhood, right? Help rebuild and bring back this corner of the city back to life, right? And then there are projects like the Oklahoman, right? It once looked like this, right? Someone I used to work with said that preservation work like this, it's kind of like polishing a turd, okay? But it's worth doing when you end up with something as inspiring as a building worth bringing the state newspaper off of its highway location back into downtown, right? Helping re-energize the urban fabric, okay? Bring people back to the sidewalks. They brought 3 restaurants on the ground floor of this building alone, okay? So these are existing buildings worth loving on, okay? Or polishing, if you have to. Let's shift gears for a moment. Let's talk about preserving the American school design, right? The American school design is something very special that most of us don't know much about. But it's something we should all, as Oklahomans, really own, okay? So I'm so excited to share a little bit more about the American school design with you, right? And it started around 1947 when this guy named Bruce Goff moved to Oklahoma and became the chairman of the architecture school at OU, all right? And he gathered some amazing teachers from across the country, and they started what we call the American school design. The way they taught architecture at OU changed the way we teach architecture the world over. Here in OU, okay? Think about that. The way we practice and talk about sustainability, the way we talk about bringing the client into the conversation, right? Not treating the client like a know-nothing, IGMO, right? There's still architects like that attitude, right? But Bruce Goff and his cadre of faculty said, the best architecture is the one you build with your people, with your community, with your client. And it's described as contextual, resourceful, and experimental, right? Some examples of that you can already see in the background, right? So that's the photograph of one of the studio areas from the 40s and 50s, right? It looks really crazy, right? In most of the other parts of the country and the world, they were still teaching people the classical orders of architecture, right? Beaux-Arts, right? French type of architecture, right? It was all about the idea that, no, buildings should look more alike. They should emphasize everything that we share, possibly, and then certainly in this day and age, the emphasis on how different we each and all are, is far more relevant, and that's why the American School of Design means so much more to our contemporary culture today, right? But this is such an important piece. We weren't pushing ideas into the students' heads at OU, we were helping them reach their own potential. And that is still an approach that resonates today. So again, they call this a new school, the only indigenous. Remember Bauhaus? Anyone? You heard of Bauhaus? Right? Where did it come from? Right? Some German place, right? And then of course we said Beaux-Arts, right? French. International, right? It's a misnomer. It's really, again, the European style, right? That's what they were doing all over the world. International, Beaux-Arts, Bauhaus. And then here's little old Bruce Goff and his cadre of faculty creating what we now view as the American School. Change the world here, Oklahoma, right? This is a project from Cheo Frank, amazing guy. Met him in Miami a few years ago. He did this a year after he graduated, okay? This is the work that inspired Frank Gehry. You guys familiar? Anyone heard of Frank Gehry, right? Cheo Frank, 67, beat Frank to it. Frank was inspired by Bruce Goff and Cheo Frank, right? An OU guy. The Bavinger House, you've heard of it. Sadly, probably most of you never will have the chance to see it. It's now rubble, okay? This was one of the most important buildings built in the United States and received the AIA 25-year award because it's so significant, right? Now just a memory, but truly inspired, built of local materials, contextual, and clearly when you're suspending the roof and your bedrooms from a cable mast, experimental, right? Can you imagine how much coffee you would need in the morning? Right? It's like, whoa, where am I? Right? This is the interior of the Hopewell Baptist Church, otherwise known as the Teepee Church, up at 178th in Portland. Our office is fortunate enough to be helping rehabilitate this project, help find the funding to bring it back to life, right? Absolutely inspired structure, all held up by oil field pipe, right? Talk about innovation, resourcefulness, experimental, right? The chandeliers, you can kind of see them here, were these dime store ashtrays, all right? He found the most basic things and recognized the beauty inherent in them. But let's spend a moment here on the Prairie House, right? The owner of the Prairie House is here today, and we're so fortunate that he has embraced this building, right? These are some of the more famous projects. Have any of you seen this? Raise your hand if you've ever seen this, right? This was published worldwide, primarily through Life magazine. One of the most important architectural photographers of the 20th century, Julie Schulman, came out to Oklahoma to photograph it because he thought it spoke to the amazing individual spirit on the Oklahoma plains, right? This was Herb Green, arguably the other most important teacher from OU or in American architecture today. Fortunately, he's been out here a few times, just here a few weeks ago, but we're now in the process of trying to build some steam to help preserve the Prairie House, right? It was all about withstanding the forces of the Oklahoma prairie, right? Using these cedar shakes with this windswept form, right? This all predates all the crazy computer-based, parametric-based designs that you see published and built more and more across the world, right? These guys conceived it without machines, right? It was all up here, all the result of brilliant teaching and individual creativity, right? And there's the big window that looks out to the west, embraces the beautiful open promise. Right? So we're all about trying to preserve this building, and through preserving this building, preserving the American School. This is the interiors, right? Basically one continuous surface of these wrapping walls and overhead surfaces, okay? All cedar shake. It's a magnificent place. And this is the Prairie House today, right? It's not in the best shape, but we're hoping to build some momentum so that we can preserve all that it means today. So we recently got a 3D scan. This is the really cool part about preservation work, is the technology of doing 3D scans of the building, right? And a building like this is so complex you can't draw, you can't document it. And we're gonna eventually take all the shakes down and replace them, right? The best way to figure out where to put them back to is by doing this 3D scan. I'll quickly just fly you around here, see if that such an exciting way to do preservation work on a complex structure like this. It's just an amazing project. And when Herb came back, he last saw it in 1967. He came back in 2017 and saw it for the first time. And he just walked up to the house and he said, "I did this?" Right? And he was just still, it was like this out-of-body experience for her. Truly amazing, right? This is why we want to preserve the American School of Architecture. And we've been busy at doing that. We've had a symposium 2 years ago. We just finished another one. OU, Architecture School, the American School, we're at the Venice Biennale. How many of you have been to the Biennale? Right? Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, we had 150,000 people see the exhibit on the American School this past summer. We're going to be in Vegas back in June, just in a couple weeks, presenting on the American School, reminding all the architects, all 20,000 architects who attend the AI convention, that this amazing legacy of how we teach architecture in the American School started here in Oklahoma. And we've got a book coming out. We really want you all to come out to Fred Jones next January, the exhibit opens, and a book will be coming out in March or so. Great collection of essays, some of which I even helped co-author, which I do not write typically. Usually I just design with my amazing partner. But I want to finish up with the idea that what we do here with architecture is we preserve hope. Hope for communities, okay? And where better to celebrate this is here in the Auditorium of the Douglas, a project that Tori and I helped master plan. We master planned this entire 6-block area and helped our client win the contract to bring this building back to life. Did you know that the author of The Invisible Man studied here? Right? This is where Ralph Ellison went to high school, right? The amazing Douglas High band started here under the tutelage of Miss Dubrow, okay, the daughter of the first principal at Douglas 100 years ago, right? Here we are preserving hope for this neighborhood because they see the life that we are helping bring back to Paige Woodson as a way of recognizing the importance of the African American community in Oklahoma City, right? It's all about hope. So there you see the original high school. This is an affordable housing project that we helped design. And this is the overall long-term plan where more affordable housing will come in, right? So people will be able to afford to move back to the neighborhood that's been so critical to their sense of anchoring here in Oklahoma. Hope, right? April 19th, 1995, devastated this community. A memorial was sought to help remind everyone that we are in this together and that we wish to carry forward. Right? This is what brought Tori and I to Oklahoma. Right? And it's so rewarding to know that the memorial still remains a symbol of hope for this community, right? And that the cycles of life, the colors of life, the seeds that populate this site because of the plants and the shrubs are a reminder of this ongoing life cycle, right? There's hope. There's something beyond the immediate in front of us. Hope is about building a community center for the poorest county in the state. It's Bladen County, the Oklahoma Episcopal Center project we finished a couple years ago. Right? This is a community that last had a building for its worship space in 1917. And since then, they're truly nomadic. It's a Cheyenne Arapaho community. And they said, we'd like to finally build our own building again. So they parked their van, which they'd used to gather up all the kids, and they would do counseling, right, to help them not to get involved with drugs and alcohol. And they built this facility all from the ground up, local fundraising, $750,000. We designed it inspired by a Cheyenne Arapaho 3-pole teepee, where it's just this frame skin. You wrap it with the most basic materials, and you create a sense of hope. This is a great project that someone in this room who helped make it happen. This is about hope in coordination with Norman Housing Authority. This is about preserving a sense of dignity for people who are best in the situation to afford a place to live, right, when they work with teams like the Affordable Housing. This was a project and there's someone in this room that helped build it, in fact, right? A few people, right? So this was a student-built project that Tori and I helped design. It's the Hubert House in Norman. Affordable housing. It's right by the railroad tracks, so it's all about preserving a sense of enclosure, of protection from the railroad. So it's this really heavy folded roof and wall that shields and deflects all the rumbling and the sound. This is the interior. I'm so happy to say that Mel Willis photographed these two images of the Hubert House. Let's give it up for Mel, by the way. And then it gets better. This is Jared Stiggy, right here. Right? Jared, good job, man. Right? Jared is so fast that even Mel can't tackle him. All right? But the most beautiful and rewarding thing was when the OU Daily came out with this story about the people who helped build it and people who were living here. It was an OU graduate who has moved in here, right, because he qualified for affordable housing. And he simply said, living here has honestly changed me, right? Preserving hope. And then we close here with, of course, Skydance Bridge, which was intended to be a symbol of the city, not just the past, but more about aspirations for the future, okay? So when we talk about this idea of preserving local economies and the environment, preserving the American School of Architecture, and preserving hope, we're really talking about preserving architecture here in Oklahoma. And when we do that well, we preserve us. Thank you very much.